Imagine waking up to a hand-delivered letter from the President of the United States, demanding 60% of your country's oil and gold. You have 48 hours. What would you do? It all began with a leak, a single line buried deep in a classified cable. Just one sentence, yet it rattled an entire nation. Captain Ibrahim Traoré, the young military leader of Burkina Faso, had 48 hours to comply with a demand that could change the course of his country's history. At the bottom of the cable, Donald J. Trump, then President of the United States. But this wasn't just politics. It was a hard-hitting business strike disguised as diplomacy. There were no negotiations, no discussions, just a blunt, cold ultimatum. Hand over nearly complete control of Burkina Faso's newly discovered oil and gold reserves, or pay the consequences. Sources say the cable didn't just appear magically in Ouagadougou. It was hand-delivered by a former U.S. military attaché, flanked by private American security contractors. By dawn, Traoré had the document on his desk. The instructions were crystal clear. Let U.S. corporations begin drilling oil, exporting gold, and manage the country's energy policies through an American-led economic board. Refusal meant sanctions, blockades, and internal sabotage. Trump's tone? Businesslike, cold, and utterly unapologetic. We saved you from terrorism. Now it's time to pay up. Traoré, however, wasn't the type to fold. Calmly, he summoned his intelligence chief and top military commander. "Tell the Americans Burkina Faso is not for sale," he said flatly. By midday, the story had exploded across African media, from Lagos to Kinshasa, every outlet buzzing. Under Burkina Faso's dry northern plains, months of secrecy had been brewing. Massive oil reserves had been confirmed by a secret geological task force that Traoré had assembled after seizing power. Russian engineers ran geological scans, Iranian drones patrolled the skies, and North Korean tech teams secured classified data. Everything was airtight, until the first drill broke ground and satellites noticed. American and French intelligence flagged unusual activity in the Sahel. Equipment flowed in from Iran and Venezuela. Encrypted communications hinted at a sovereign petroleum corridor. Gold mines were quietly reclaimed. French-controlled companies were replaced by national military units. The money no longer flowed to Paris, it went into local development funds. Washington understood immediately. A country with oil and gold, not run by Wall Street, not answering to Paris, not begging the IMF, backed by its own people and army, was a nightmare for them. They didn't just want the resources. They wanted to kill the idea before neighboring countries, Mali, Niger, Chad, Congo, got any ideas. That's when the calls started flooding in from Exxon, Chevron, and Washington's inner circle. How do we shut this down before it becomes another African-owned? Libya? Their answer, send Trump. But Traoré? He didn't kneel. When the message landed in Ouagadougou, it was wrapped in arrogance, disguised as diplomacy. But this wasn't negotiation, it was extortion. A 7-page document, labeled Confidential Strategic Resource Acquisition Framework, outlined U.S. control over 60% of oil production, all gold export routes, and oversight of new contracts. In return, military security, technology partnerships, and protection from regime change, a thinly veiled threat. At the top, written in thick red ink, Traoré has 48 hours. Bold, naked, imperialist. Washington tried to downplay it, claiming Trump acted independently. But Traoré got it loud and clear. He read the message twice, set it aside, and said, "So that's their price for peace? Slavery in a suit and tie." He didn't hesitate. He lit a fire instead. Orders went out fast. Lock down oil fields, double security on gold convoys, cut off foreign data flows, prep a national broadcast. By noon, the entire country was watching. Traoré had 48 hours. The world watched. But what he did next would shock everyone and shake the continent to its core. When they came for his resources, he didn't just say no, he stood up for an entire continent. Traoré appeared on national television. one hand gripping Burkina Faso's flag, the other holding the confidential U.S. threat. Calm, unshaken, eyes sharp as a blade. To those behind this insult, you have misjudged us. We are not Libya. We are not Iraq. You have 48 hours to take your greed and leave African soil. The speech set Africa on fire. From Dakar to Dar es Salaam, everyone was watching. Meanwhile, in the West, panic spread. Exxon, Halliburton, CIA analysts, and U.S. power brokers scrambled. Surveillance drones intensified flights over Sahel oil fields. Social media bots churned out hit pieces calling Traoré unstable or mentally unfit. But inside Burkina Faso, support exploded. Volunteers flocked to guard oil fields. Women's groups delivered food to soldiers. Students taught sovereignty and resource justice. Every smear campaign, youth laughed and reposted with, "If they hate him this much, he must be doing something right." Traoré knew the real fight wasn't just Trump. It was the global machine, banks, oil giants, spy agencies, and media empires that had stripped Africa for generations. And now that machine had turned its full weight on one man who refused to bend. Then allies appeared. Mali sent Colonel Assimi Goïta. Niger sent General Abdourahmane. Guinea sent Colonel Mamadi Doumbouya. No suits, no diplomats, just warriors standing next to Traoré. Message: if you touch Burkina Faso, you touch all of us. AS, the African Emergency Shield, was born, a regional alliance ready to act. China and Russia quietly joined the fray. Within 72 hours, Chinese engineers delivered a fully operational refinery within 90 days, gold valuation systems that bypassed Western banks, and a digital trade system powered. Russia brought advanced anti-drone and electronic warfare equipment. Burkina Faso now controlled the entire resource chain: oil, gold, and digital trade. Washington, stunned. Traoré's defiance wasn't just bold, it was unprecedented. The stage was set for the world's most audacious show of sovereignty. One man refused, and in doing so, he became a symbol for an entire continent. Traoré had defied the U.S., rallied West Africa, and brought China and Russia into his corner, all without firing a shot. Western media panicked. CNN and Fox News called him a madman. Analysts warned of chaos. But online, the internet exploded. Hashtags like #Africa is not for sale trended globally. T-shirts read, "If CNN hates you, you're doing something right." The 24-hour ultimatum passed. Traoré went further. In a secret National Assembly session, all oil and gold reserves were nationalized and permanently protected from foreign corporate ownership. Licenses revoked. Contractors escorted out. Diplomatic channels informed. Burkina Faso's resources are non-negotiable. On national TV, Traoré declared, "We've been exploited for generations. Now they want to take it back. I serve my people, not empires. Burkina Faso is not afraid. I will not negotiate with thieves." The streets erupted, drums, fireworks, dancing crowds. Online, youth whispered, "We protect what's ours." Trump, furious. Threats failed. Washington went dark. Traoré chuckled at the panic. Military readiness skyrocketed. AS allies mobilized. Mali sent armored units. Nigeria activated air defense radar. Guinea promised rapid response for any attack. The continent was united. But the boldest, most viral move was still coming: a single 43-second video that would make Traoré a global sensation and send shockwaves worldwide. In 43 seconds, he shook the world and stood for every African. Traoré's video was simple, direct, calm, powerful. This isn't just about oil. This isn't just about gold. This is about the soul of Africa. I'd rather die standing than live kneeling. Within 48 hours, it racked up 12 million views. Former African leaders began breaking decades of silence to call him. Traoré had become more than a soldier or president. He was a symbol of African sovereignty. Western governments scrambled. Satellite activity tripled. U.S. Navy ships repositioned. Africa issued warnings. Traoré's forces locked down oil and gold routes. ES allies stood ready. Ordinary Africans across the continent flooded streets, chanting, "Touch Traoré, you touch all of us." Africa is not your minefield. Social media amplified the movement. Youth posted videos of oil, soil, and coins, whispering, "We protect what's ours." Traoré shattered decades of expectations. He refused to kneel, refused to sell, and refused to back down. Africa stood tall, united, and unshakable. This wasn't just a victory for Burkina Faso, it was a blueprint, a statement that Africa's resources, dignity, and future belong to its people. Traoré didn't just survive a U.S. ultimatum, he redefined leadership, courage, and sovereignty for an entire continent. With Traoré leading, a new African chapter had begun, and the world could no longer ignore it.